Good everyone. Today we are solving transportation model. Transportation model. When they say what is transportation model, it is a system or a way in which the products that are produced in a different factories or in a different plants can be transported to different warehouse in a way that will optimize or that will in a very low in a lowest cost, that in a way that will optimize the cost of the transportation. So that is what the transportation is all about. So we'll be solving this question on transportation. So when we calculate for transportation model, there are three different methods that you can use to calculate for transportation model in order to know which one is going to be the most optimized one. So we have northwest corner method, we have least cost method, and there's the one they call Vogel approximation method. So we'll be using the three on this topic. And on this question, we have God is Good Nigeria Limited transportation. God is Good Nigeria Limited transportation. Okay, God is Good Transportation Nigeria Limited transport 3 products to 4 warehouses of its customers. The supply capacity of its factories cost of transportation as well as the demand of 4 warehouses are presented in the table below. So this is the table. This is the supply. We have supply 1, supply 1, supply 2, supply 3. That is, these are the factories that are producing. Then we have demand 1, demand 2, demand 3, and demand 4. These are the warehouses that they are taking it to. Then this is the supply. This is total supply. Supply 1, factory 1 can supply 700, factory 2 can supply 900, factory 3 can supply 18. Then demand also. Demand 1 demand 500, demand 2 demand 800, and demand 3 demand 700, and demand 4 demand 1004. Then you are required to determine initial feasible solution using northwest corner, least cost method, and Vogel approximation method. Calculate the total cost for each. So we are starting with least cost method. So when you want to do the calculation for this, what you need first, you are going to create a table where these are the costs. These are the costs. Everything that are here, they are the costs. This is demand. This is the total demand for the demand 1. This is total demand for demand 2, and this is total demand for 3. Total demand for 4. And this some representing supply. That is, this is the amount this one can supply. This amount this one can supply, and this amount this one can supply. So these are the costs. The cost that if supply 1 supply demand 1, this is the cost for 1 unit. If supply 1 supply demand 2, this is the cost for 1 unit. If supply 1 supply demand 3, this is the cost for 1 unit. If supply 1 supply demand 4, this is the cost for 1 unit. If supply 2 supply demand 1, this is the cost for 1 unit. Cost for 2 units, cost for 3, cost for 1 unit. If supply 2 supply demand 2, then if supply 2 supply demand 3, this is the cost for 1 unit. Supply 2 supply demand 4, this is the cost for 1 unit. So these are the costs, and these are the total demand, and these are the total supply. So the table we are going to create, a table, say using least cost method. Using least cost method, then we are going to create a table. So from the table we are going to create, we have it's going to be like the one in the question, but not actually the same, because we have demand 1, demand 2, demand 3, demand 4, then we can have total supply. Then we have supply 1, supply 2, supply 3, and we can have total demand. Total demand. We have total demand. So this is we have origin and destination. So we have supply 1, supply 2, supply 3, and we have demand 1, demand 2, demand 3, and demand 4. So our total also will be here. We have under demand 1 we have 500, under 2 we have 800, under 3 we have 700, and under 4 we have 1004. Then under supply we have 700, under supply 2 we have 900, and under supply 3 we have 1008. So the price, the cost will be putting up here. This is where we are going to put the cost for all of them. We create a space at up here to put the cost. Now all this cost now will now be up here. We have 190, we have 300, we have 500, and we have 100. Then here 700, 300, 400, and 600. Then we have 400, we have 80, we have 700, and we have 200. Now everything that are here, they are still the same thing from the question, right? So now we want to using least cost method. Let me try to explain what this is representing. This is how they give us the format for the table. That is this are the demands. So their total demand is 500. Demand 1 demand for 500, demand 2 demand for 800, and demand 3 demand for 700, demand 4 demand for 1004. So from all these demand, we have 3 factories that can supply those demand, that can satisfy those demands. So those 3 factories are, we have supply 1, supply 2, and supply 3. Now the total capacity that supply 1 can supply is 700. The total capacity that supply 2 can supply is 900, and the total capacity that supply 3 can supply is 1008. So under this question, there is something that is very certain. Whenever you are doing it, the total demand that they will give you will always be the total supply. So when you calculate all these 4 figures that are here, and you calculate all this one that are here, you see that they are the same figure, which is telling us that the total demand will always be total supply. So when you calculate all the figures that are here, so we'll be having 3,400. This plus this plus this plus this, we'll be having 3,400. And when we add this 3 together also, it will give us 3,400. So now this is the total. This demand 1 demand for 500, demand 2 demand for 800, demand 3 demand for 700, demand 4 demand for 1004, and supply 1, like I said before, this is their total capacity that they can supply. This one that can supply 900, and these 2 can supply 800. So we want to use using least cost method. No matter which method we are using, we are going to supply all the supply and we are going to satisfy all the four demand, because the total demand is equal to total supply. So we just want to know the best method that we can use to maximize, to minimize the cost, the transportation cost. So these are the costs. These are the costs. All this figure here in the boxes, they are the cost. So now using least cost method, that is, we want to use least cost method. We will first supply to the demand that have the lowest transportation cost. So when we are using least cost method, we first look at the one that have the lowest transportation cost. When you supply everything that it needs finished, that is when we can now look for another one that have the lowest cost also. So using lowest cost, we look at the box that have the lowest cost from all this one. So if you look at everything, we see that the 80 is 80 that have the lowest cost from everything. So under 80, that 80 falls under demand 2. So what is total demand for that demand 2 is 800. So 800 can supply 3, because that 80 falls under demand 2 and supply 3. So can supply 2 have the supply 2 have the capacity of supplying that 800? Yes, because supply 3 have capacity of supplying 180. So from here you can supply all that 800. So say 800, we supply everything 800, and from there, when we supply 800 from 1008 of the capacity of supply 3, so it's remaining 1000. So it's remaining 1000. So now after that, we supply the one for the lowest cost finish. So we now look for another lowest cost again. So from here, this one has been satisfied. Total demand for the demand 2 has been satisfied through supply 3. So this one doesn't have anything again. Then we look at another lowest cost. What is the other lowest cost? We have 100. So 100 is the other lowest cost. So 100 fall under demand 4. What is total demand for demand 4? That is 1004. Then from 1004, can supply 1 supply all the 1004? No. Supplier 1 only have capacity of 700. So supplier cannot supply that 1004. So because of that, we supply all the capacity that 1004, that 700, that supplier can supply. So we say 700. So supply 1 has no more product to supply, and this one demand 4 still remaining 700. That is 700 minus 700. Then from there we cancel the remaining box for supply 1. Supply 1 has no any product to supply again, but supply demand 4 still remaining 700 product. So we look at another lowest cost that still have the capacity to supply. So from all these costs that we 700, 400, 600, 700, so then we go to 200. So 200 falls under demand 4 and supply 3. Now demand 4 have how many? Initially demand 4 have demand of 1004. We supply 700 from the demand 4 from supply 1. So now remaining 700. Now this 700 can supply 3 supply everything. Yes, supply 3 still have capacity of 1000. So we supply all the remaining 700. So we have no demand again. Then this one still remaining 300. Still have the product of 300. So from there we've satisfied the demand of the demand 4 also. So now we look for another lowest cost again that have not been crossed out, that still have the demand and still have the demand. So here 400, 700, 400. Are we having 400? Yes. So now from here we say we supply this 400. We supply this 400. We supply the 400. We have 2 lowest costs. So let's pick this one first. We supply this 400. This 400 has total demand of total demand of demand 3 have total demand of 700 and it has not been, so can supply 2 which fall under this 400 supply everything? Yes, supply 2 have this capacity of 900, so we said we supply everything 700, then no more demand on demand 3, then this still have 200 of products. Then after then we still have the lowest cost again is 400, right? And this 400, this demand 3 have no demand again, so we have the only two sets that are remaining now is only this 2, and from this 2 the lowest is this one, so we satisfy this one first. So under the supply under the supply under the supply 3, yeah, under the supply 3 we have 500, right? Have 500, but demand 1 have demand of 500, but supply 3 can only supply 300 because remaining just 300, so we supply that 300, so this one remaining 200 to supply, and this has no more supply, so we satisfy, so this one remain just 200, so there's only one place that we can get the 200, and which is the only one place that is remaining. So we start, can this one supply that 200? Fairly yes, this is supply remaining 200, so we supply everything 200, so this has no more, and this has no more demand, that has no more supply. So like this we satisfy all the demand and the supply. We supply all the required demand, so we supply all the product to all the demand fields using the least cost method. So that is how we calculate. So they say we should calculate for the total cost. So how are you going to calculate for total cost? From here we have 700 times 100 naira, like, plus I said before that these are the costs, so we were able to satisfy the demand 4 from supply 1, and the cost for 1 is 100 naira. So for us to know the total cost is 700 unit times 100 naira. So that is how we are doing everywhere we supply. So here we have 200 times 700 naira, then plus again 700 times 400 naira, then plus where again 300 times 400 naira, then plus 800 times 80 naira, then 200, then plus 700 times 200 naira. So we do the plus everything. When we plus everything, we get then we get it's equal to 814 naira. That is 814 naira. So that is that using least cost method. So we can now go to using of another method, which is northwest method.